we got word, and you may have heard this maybe in the 2010 class, we got word about somebody who was placed in specifically in a Toledo public school. It could have happened anywhere, but it just happened to be there. Who was a student teacher having badmouthed the school that they were in on Facebook. And that's not a very good idea, because what happens is as soon as they put something out on Facebook, it gets all over the place, and within a couple of days it ended up on the superintendent's desk. And once the superintendent gets the name of a student who is complaining about their placement and about their school, everything starts to break loose. And so we've got a little bit of an issue on our hands that was started from that situation. None of our people, in fact, we're not even sure that it was a BGSU student. It looks like it may have been a UT student, but we don't know for sure what else is going on. What I do know is, one of the things I guess I want to remind you or tell you right up front, and I'm going to say this to everybody next Tuesday, make sure, no matter what you're doing in the field, any school, any placement, anywhere, that you're professional, okay? You're professional about it. I walk into schools all the time where I'm asked to work with teachers in that building. I'll do a professional development workshop or something like that, and I'm in that school, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, this is really screwed up. Why are they doing this, and why aren't they doing that, and so forth. And I can share that with maybe the staff that I'm working with. I can share that with my friends back on campus, but I'm not going to jump on Facebook and say this school is screwed up, right? And the fact is, nobody's perfect. No school is perfect. There are always going to be flaws out there. So for us to come back within a class and process what's going on, we liked this, we wish they were doing that, etc. Reasonable conversations to have, but as soon as you start broadcasting that out there to the public through social media or any other means by that, you're really taking a big risk of that somehow coming back to haunt you in the long run. And probably nothing haunts you like a Facebook or a Twitter kind of post, because then people will be able to trace it back to you said this on this day kind of a deal. And you don't want that. So, just keep it in mind. It's a professionalism issue. We all have issues with, no matter what school you can be placed in. My hope is that every time you walk in a classroom, no matter what classroom it is, you'll always think of ways that they could be doing that class better. Because that's what teaching is all about. You go into a classroom and you say, I like how the teacher does that, but I wish he or she was doing this. That's great, and that's part of our discussion. That's how we grow. We learn about what we want our own classes to look like. But as soon as you start going out there telling other people, I was in this classroom at Bowling Green High School, and this teacher's a nut, he was doing such and such. Okay, now word's going to get back to that guy. You just know it, so don't do that. So we got to be careful who we share those kind of comments with. So just a note, but keep me posted as we go through. I'm cohort 5. I'm going to try to get out to Rogers High School when I can. It won't be frequently, but I'll drop in once in a while and see how things are going. So keep an eye on if there are placement changes and so forth that you want or need. Just make sure you talk to Jenny about that. She's going to try to situate everybody where they're supposed to be. Cohort 4. With your presentations today and coming up next month and the ones we did in the fall, I did a kind of a new thing last year that I tried, and it actually worked really well. I invited a certain number of our, what were cohort 3 at the time, Practicum presenters to present at the state math conference. And we had a really interesting session that kind of came from it. And so what happened is anybody who did a presentation here that was more kind of math oriented, I went through that list and took some of the ones that I thought kind of were, well, I tried to vary it a little bit so that it wasn't all at the same grade level and it wasn't all the same topic. And so I reached out to a few people, and a couple people kind of contacted me and said they were interested. But bottom line is I ended up putting a session together. The Ohio Council of Teachers of Math Conference happens once a year. And this year it is Thursday and Friday, the first week of November. I think it's the 4th and 5th or something like that. It's in Cleveland at the Convention Center this year. It moves around the state. I was in Akron last year. No, it was in Dayton last year. Akron the year before that. But anyway, so it's in Cleveland in November. And bottom line is I am looking to put together a session where we present some of the practicum ideas that we have presented here in this class to the greater audience at the OCTM conference. We had a great time doing it last year. I took, I think, 8 or 10 cohort 3 students with me, and we went down, did a session together. We were in a room that had about 200 and some odd seats in it, and the program chairperson said, tell your students, don't be nervous. It's first thing in the morning. You won't have more than 20 people show up anyway, so it's not a big deal. I said, that's great. I warned them ahead of time. We walked in the room. It was full of the rafters. There were people standing in the aisles. They were sitting on the floor. We had probably 250 teachers there. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but they did a great job. And really what they did was sort of a mini presentation of just what you're doing here. Each one of the presenters or teams of presenters got up and spent a few minutes kind of explaining what they did at their practicum, handing out copies of activity pages that teachers could use that would tie back to kind of real world experiences, etc. It was very cool. So I put in a proposal to do that again this fall. And I left the names out. I just said I'm going to coordinate the session. If you accept the proposal, I'll figure out who the speakers are later and get those to you within the next month or so. So if you're interested in doing that, I'll be kind of looking for people as we go through the next few weeks that might be interested in going down there and doing that. Okay, so that's coming up. Last thing for everybody, speaking of coming up, this is a room-wide thing. I'd like to invite you, if you are available, during the common time on April 22nd, 2 months from now. And what's going to happen on that day, it's not on your calendar right now, it's not a required date that you have to be at, but we thought that you might want to come if you're interested. And what we're doing on that day is the people who are currently student teaching that are doing their capstone project, they will have their capstone projects completed and turned in about a week or so before that. And on that afternoon at 4:30, we're meeting up in Offenhauer 11,
1104.
1109 or whatever that number is. 1104, whatever it is, 11 something. 11.
The community room, we got.
Yeah, the meeting room up on 11th floor. And they are, the people who are student teaching right now are going to present the results of their capstone projects. And the 3160 people, who are going to be doing methods in the fall and student teaching next year, are required to be there. So the two groups are going to be together. And we're actually going to split them up into two groups. We're going to have the math people at one sort of end of the room, or one table, and we'll have all of the AYA science and middle childhood math and science people at the other table. So it'll be like two groups split up. And their job is just to share it. And they're only going to have about 7 minutes or so per presentation. So it's not going to be anything very formal. It's going to be kind of an informal sharing roundtable of, hey, here's what I did for my capstone project. Here's the research I did. Here's how the results came out. Maybe an opportunity to ask questions and see what they did with that. And so we thought that it was important for the current juniors going into methods in student teaching to see what this year's seniors did in the capstone. But we want to invite all of you to come also. If you're interested and able to come, I think it would be a good opportunity for you, because I know some of you are kind of hungry too and thinking about what does that actually look like, what kind of research are our seniors doing when they're in student teaching. It'd be a good opportunity for you to get a glimpse of what a number of people have done as they go around the table. So it's not on your original common time calendar, but if you're interested in coming, we'd like to have you there. It will start at 4:30, during the common time, 4:30 to 5:50 on April 22nd. Okay, and I think, Wendy, you'll be sending probably a reminder and a note out to people. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to do an RSVP to get some kind of account, maybe not.
Just
but
reminder,
anyway, you'll
yeah.
get a note out to everybody, but just if you're available that day, I'd like to have you there. Okay? All right, good. Any other questions before we start? When I say every other question, you didn't ask any, so no questions. All right. So our first presenters are